What a headshot! What a head!
How's it guys, this is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I'll be taking you through my very own team selection for penultimate game week 37. So that's right, only 2 game weeks left of this FPL season, and we're going to kick this one off with actually a Friday night deadline. So please guys, don't forget about the deadline. I'll be doing a deadline stream, so make sure those notifications are on for Twitter and YouTube. As come Friday, 1 hour before the deadline, you'll get notified when I do go live. That can kind of be a reminder if you guys won't be in the deadline stream, just maybe make an alarm or something like that. With 2 weeks left of the season, there's going to be massive tears if you guys do miss this deadline. So hopefully this is going to serve as your reminder. In this team selection at this late stage of the season, I've kind of combined 2 videos, the best parts of the ultimate guide, the projected goals, predicted clean sheets, and obviously my own team review for game week 36 and my team selection for game week 37. Now this is just going to be a normal game week, even though we had the FA Cup coming up on Saturday, which is quite interesting, and that's going to make this team selection quite a difficult one with all the unknowns. So I'm going to do my best job to kind of give you guys some insight into what I would do with those Crystal Palace plus Man City players, and I'll probably transfer one of them out before the game week 37 deadline. So if you guys want to see my transfer plan as well as my overall team selection, sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. Now a very quick review of how game week 36 went. If you guys want to go a bit more in depth, the transfer plan I released on Monday does do that. I'll just be going over the positions as well as the overall points. So luckily, as you guys can see on the right hand side, 66 points scored in game week 36, and that was a green arrow to 31k. Now just below that for the team selection, the transfer plan upcoming, 1 free transfer but 4.7 in the bank, so quite a big upgrade can be made if you want to do it. We did bench a few points unfortunately for Bruggen for his 8-pointer, Murphy for his assist and a 5-pointer, but then both Saliba and Kyria lost their clean sheet and actually conceded 2 goals. Even though Bruggen got the 8-pointer, we did have Martinez between the sticks with a lovely matching 8-pointer, did rack up a yellow card, so this could have been 1 point more. When I did see the Brighton goalkeeper keep the clean sheet, I thought this was definitely going to be a clean sheet wipeout or a 1-pointer for Martinez, so I was quite happy when I saw the opposite. Now in our backline, the points continued to flow, a clean sheet for Guardiola, just happy I owned a Man City defender, not one of their attackers, as their Southampton game ended 0-0. Now Dan Burn, probably one of the most jammy players of game week 36, got a lovely assist for that Bruno goal, and also a clean sheet to his name. Now as you guys will know, Jackson got the red card in the first half, which basically locked in the clean sheet, but was a little bit closer even after that. Unfortunately though, Neco Williams did wipe out our full house of defensive returns as he got a 1-pointer against Leicester. Now I'm pretty sure you guys will be disappointed if you were a Nottingham Forest fan. I personally was quite disappointed in Neco Williams, as to me this was basically a locked-in clean sheet. Now midfield department also scored a few points though. The main man was going to be Eze. What an absolute baller, 2 goals taking him to 16 points. Saul also contributed with a lesser degree, only 1 assist, but was quite happy with Eze as a differential. Now Salah also blanked, he did have a few chances to assist plus score, just wasn't there, and I'll speak about him shortly as it looks like he's already on the beach. Finally our captain Mbumo, pretty popular Campsy option, only 1 assist for the 2nd week in a row, would have really loved a massive haul like we have seen this season, but he's been pretty quiet these last few game weeks. At least it wasn't a Campsy blank though, that is going to be a dub, as the rest of our forward department ended up blanking. So yes, Isaac blanked against Chelsea's 10 men, Mateta got 59 minutes, was subbed 15 seconds before the 2-pointer, and finally Visa got a yellow card taking him to the 1-pointer. Now what I will say is that all these players did have their chances, the XG was there but the finishing wasn't, polar opposite to our defensive department. So definitely wasn't a week for the forwards. If you guys went for Erling Haaland or even still kept Mamush, you guys will know exactly what I'm talking about. At least we did avoid those kind of transfers for Haaland or Kevin De Bruyne, as I was looking to take a hit, and that allowed us to get a green arrow to 31k. But enough about my kind of overall rank. What is yours guys looking like after game week 36? With 2 weeks left of FPL play, you guys can still make some massive greens. Now the next talking point is going to be the predicted clean sheets, focusing on the upcoming game week 37, and we do definitely have some standout fixtures. Now the number one team defensively is going to be Everton against Southampton. 46% is very high, and then you have Chelsea and Aston Villa playing on Friday. Now what you guys will notice is that these best fixtures are going to be happening on Friday evening, and that's because both Spurs plus United are expected to rotate as they are playing the Europa final next midweek. Now it's a little bit of a weird one because they have had a little bit of a rest from game week 36. You don't want your players to be too leggy, but you also want them to get a few minutes before the final. So will we see maybe some 60 minutes or maybe some late subs? Who kind of knows? But the projections are basically saying that Aston Villa and Chelsea are going to do well. Man City also have some good projections, 32%, but that's after the FA Cup. The saving grace is going to be Man City's Champions League spot is quite highly contested. On the other hand, Crystal Palace at 30%. If they do win the FA Cup final, I'm not really expecting too many of their players to be on the best of form come Tuesday, so I'm just going to leave it at that. Other than those top 5 teams though, the projections aren't that high. We do have some very high scoring fixtures, Brighton, Liverpool for example, both on 16%, and then West Ham, Nottingham Forest might be quite boring. Teams to avoid are going to be those newly promoted squads, and then obviously Spurs and as well as United, not great projections. The one team I'm kind of looking at though is going to be Arsenal versus Newcastle. So I do own a lot of Arsenal assets defensively, 29% isn't that bad, so should I be playing Saliba over someone like a Dan Burn? You guys can pause the screen right now, but I think I've gone over the majority of teams that you probably own defenders from. Let's now move on to the more exciting projected goals. So in a tough captaincy week, this is definitely going to help those of you out there that still have to make up your mind. Let's go over the projected goals for each team. Now once again, those Friday night fixtures, that rotation is kind of the reason Chelsea as well as Aston Villa are looking to do quite well. They are the two highest projected goal scorers. So if you guys are looking for a captain, it's basically Ollie Watkins is the tempted option or Cole Palmer is the analytical option. You guys can basically choose between those two or go mega differential. Also want to shout out on Mbumo, 1.9 isn't too bad, and it's not like you guys are going to be captaining an Everton asset, even though 2.1 goals is pretty high. Once again, Man City quite hard to predict how they're going to do after the FA Cup final, but their projections also pretty healthy at 2.2. As mentioned, Brighton, Liverpool, lots of goals in there, whereas West Ham, Nottingham Forest might be quite boring. I definitely am focusing on that Aston Villa or Chelsea fixture though. It just kind of feels like with that Aston Villa Champions League spot, as mentioned, that top 5 is highly contested, and after seeing Spurs' performance against Crystal Palace, I think they're going to do quite well against them. That's why I think my transfer plan this week will probably be revolving around bringing in an Aston Villa player, maybe not even 1, maybe 2 from -4. Once again, if you guys don't want to go there, Chelsea good projections, Brentford also pretty strong, probably wouldn't risk an Erling Haaland or a Kevin De Bruyne, even though it's KDB's last home fixture. He might be an outside punt, I guess, if you guys are a Man City fan and you want to go there, but there's just too many unknowns about a potential injury in the FA Cup final. Liverpool's projections, I was captaining Mo Salah, 1.75 isn't too great, and it's pretty safe to assume that Liverpool are on the beach at least for game week 37. Arsenal, if you guys do own a Saka, 1.75, same as Liverpool and Brighton, pretty okay. Newcastle's a bit worrying though, currently starting Isaac, only 1.23. So I guess some decisions, some benching concerns, captaincy can be made on the back of these projected goals. You can pause the screen if you want to, but now let's go on to the team selection. So having just seen those projected clean sheets and predicted goals, let's now move on to our team selection and see if anything has changed. I do think I'm going to shift my captain from Salah though. Now we do still have 1 free transfer and 4.7 left in the bank, so we can use it for quite a big upgrade if need be. Now my bench this week, even though Arsenal are projected to kind of have a good chance of a clean sheet, I'll be benching Saliba and QEL because I do own Isaac. I'm comfortable benching Murphy though in this away fixture. Then with Verbrugge and Liverpool, I'm going to play Martinez against Spurs, you saw the clean sheet chance. And then our back 3 starts off with Guardiola with also a pretty good chance if he starts this one. That is an unknown though, and I guess if he doesn't play, Saliba will come off the bench, but I do prefer the Bournemouth at home fixture. Then as mentioned, benching the Arsenal assets, therefore hero Dan Burn in game week 36 will make a resurgence. Can he keep a clean sheet? Probably not, but I'm going to hold thumbs. Finally, Neco Williams, I just do prefer him. I guess I could go for the Arsenal double up, but I prefer Neco Williams has a slight attacking threat. And Nottingham Forest have to kind of win here and keep a clean sheet if they're going to progress to the Champions League. After drawing to Leicester, that might not be possible. West Ham's definitely a better team, but as a non-Jared Bowen owner, I hope they keep the clean sheet. Then our midfield department, I mentioned Salah might be on the beach, actually literally in Dubai this midweek. I think he should play against Brighton, but it might not be his best form. I think personally Liverpool are saving themselves for that Crystal Palace 38 fixture, at home getting the Premier League trophy. So I'm fine kind of keeping him, but not enough to captain him, and therefore I'll be going for another asset. It won't be one of the Crystal Palace midfielders though. So Eze Sarr, I think they should probably start against Wolves, at least I hope they do, but literally an unknown after that FA Cup final. If they do both start, I think there is a chance of points. Both have been pretty good. And that leads me into my captain this week, and that's going to be Mbeumo currently. Now with no other transfers made, Mbeumo seems like a sensible option against Fulham at home. Brentford scoring projections aren't looking too bad. Is on penalties quite a talisman, even though recently hasn't really shown it. At least he's ticking along nicely, and that's what you want from your captain. Then up front, let's just hope it's not going to be 3 blanks, but it might be. Starting off with Isaac against Arsenal, requiring surgery at the end of the season isn't looking too good, but I'm pretty sure that he'll continue to play as long as Newcastle are fighting for the Champions League. And even though he will start, Arsenal away is a very tough game. Yes, they might not be as good defensively as they have been this season, but an off-form Isaac doesn't lead me to full confidence. I'm just going to keep him though. The ownership is still pretty high, but I can understand if you guys do want to lose him. If Newcastle do win against Arsenal, he might even be benched for Everton at home in Game Week 38. Speaking about benchings, I do believe Mateta will be benched against Wolves and Nketiah will come in. It just makes too much sense, to be honest. I do believe out of my Crystal Palace players, he's the most vulnerable to a sub. Even if he starts, he might even be subbed on the 59th minute. So at the moment, Mateta looks like an easy transfer out with the unknowns. And that's going to lead us to our final player, and that's going to be Visa against Fulham. So let's hope for less yellow cards and more chances converted for Visa. He has been on pretty good form these past few game weeks. Don't really mind going for him as the double up if I am going to captain Mbeumo. Otherwise, I just hope Mbeumo's ownership is low enough that I hope they're neither blank. Let's see what happens come that Game Week 37 deadline though, but I do kind of feel like Mbeumo might be more differential. At least that's what I'm hoping for. For the starting 11, there are a lot of unknowns. Guardiola, Eze, Sarr, Mateta with the FA Cup, who kind of knows? And then Newcastle and Arsenal are playing each other. This might just be a week of trying to avoid a red arrow and therefore maybe not taking a -4, although I am quite tempted to do an additional move. So let's now move on to that transfer plan. Now the first transfer, as mentioned, Mateta, I do believe will be benched against Wolves at home, and that's why I'm looking to transfer him out, and this move is going to be pretty certain. Now my number 1 replacement is going to be Ollie Watkins, and with Ollie Watkins coming in, I will therefore captain him. I just believe there's too much upside in the Spurs at home fixture. Now I did have a lot of questions about if you guys can't afford an Ollie Watkins, who would you go for? And that would be Evan Nielsen from Bournemouth. Now yes, Man City away is a tough game, but Leicester at home in Game Week 38 is not much more that you guys can ask for. And it's not like Man City are keeping a bunch of clean sheets against the better teams. So even though Evan Nielsen does look pretty good, will allow for maybe a different upgrade in Game Week 38, I think the captain Ollie Watkins makes too much sense. So this transfer does look pretty locked in. I think that Ollie Watkins will rise in price tonight. I'm going to wait for the press conferences though, but you guys can knock the move. And now it's just deciding whether to take another hit for a -4. So the Crystal Palace midfielders do worry me. If they don't start against Wolves, they have Liverpool away in Game Week 38, but I'll probably will take them out anyways. So do I take a -4 for someone like a Rodgers with Spurs as well as United? That could be quite a sensible move, but is it likely taking a hit with 2 weeks left of game weeks? Definitely would be a risk. You guys generally want as many game weeks as possible to repay that hit, but 2 good fixtures might be enough for Rodgers in that midfield department. You guys can let me know what you think in the comments down below. I would definitely consider your Game Week 38 moves as well if you guys are going to plan, as you might want to bring a Bournemouth midfielder or someone like an Evan Nielsen or a Saka for captaincy. Just consider that when you guys are choosing your Mateta replacement that might actually sway you towards Evan Nielsen, as long as you guys don't want to captain Ollie Watkins. But you guys let me know your transfer plans in the comments down below. As mentioned, Mateta to Watkins and captain looks pretty likely, but I might also take an additional -4. Make sure that you guys in the deadline stream, as a reminder, Friday evening, please don't forget it. Notifications on for YouTube and Twitter. Hopefully I see you guys over there. This is basically our video guys. Hope you guys did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like it and subscribe if you have subscribed yet. Tons of content thought to come up for Game Week 38. And let's just hope Game Week 37 is an absolute banger. But for the time being, I'm signing off. It's been Dayvy FPL, and I'm out. Cheers, bye.